Racer or not, as a Chicago sailor, you tend to be aware of the generally third weekend in July that brings with it the annual race to Mackinac Island from Chicago. This is the 116th running of the race by the Chicago Yacht Club, enjoying its 150th anniversary. The race is over 330 miles, involving almost 300 entries and spanning 2 to 3 days for most racers. As a sailor, you can't help but notice all the impressive sailboats and racing crews spanned across Chicago's harbors preceding the race, or queuing up to start the race off of Chicago's Navy Pier on race day. The race received some unfortunate and unwelcome news only days before the start, when word came that one of the expected participants, red herring, a 55-foot custom canting keel ketch owned by Frederick Eaton of Toronto, Canada, sunk off the coast of Wisconsin on the night of July 16th. The sailboat was assaulted by higher winds with thunderstorm activity. The sailboat's rudder snapped under the strain and the boat took on water. Emergency beacons were deployed by the crew. Nearby boats provided the Coast Guard with information, and the Coast Guard sent an MH-60 Jayhawk helicopter out of Traverse City and a 45-foot response boat out of Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. The rescue took place in storm conditions, and all 5 crew members were rescued out of the water. That water is cold, and this was a life-threatening situation. The race to Mackinac Island from Chicago is broken into 2 main starting events. One for the cruising division, which occurs on Friday afternoon, and the Saturday late morning start for the main racing divisions, which is generally a greater spectacle and more accessible to the public, being that it's on a Saturday. This year, the race organizers did something different than previous years. They modified the course to include an initial Skyline Sprint. In essence, they added a turn marker 5 miles north of the starting line and 0.6 miles offshore from Chicago's Wilson Avenue Breakwater Light near Montrose Harbor. This change meant that all the sailboats would be visible over a longer stretch of the Chicago skyline and would allow for more opportunities for people on shore to observe and take notice of the spectacle happening on the water. As race day approached, it was threatened by severe thunderstorm risk as a low-pressure system north of the city was moving east and carrying along with it a cold front that would likely bring low-lying clouds, rain, and higher probabilities of thunderstorms. Sailors maintain wariness of thunderstorms, as high wind gusts can put incredible strain on the gear, much like what red herring experienced only days before. In addition, the possibility of a lightning strike is introduced, which can cause significant damage to a sailboat and put lives at risk. Many racers, spectators, and organizers paid close attention to the weather radar information as the start of the race edged closer and closer. Okay, we're here in Chicago. It's around 8 a.m., maybe a little before, and today is the day of the Mac race, right? The start of the main competitive heats of the Mac race. That's going to be happening today between 11 and 3 o'clock. And we're starting the day with a risk of thunderstorm, severity of 2 out of 5, according to the news this morning, because there's a low pressure system that's going to be clipping north of us and bringing in those thunderstorm possibilities. And if you look on the radar today, you can see that there is a line moving toward Chicago. That's got to have the race organizers on alert, as well as the racers. Nobody wants to get pummeled right off the bat by potential lightning and some gusts that can get up to 60 knots. But that is what is in the card this morning. I'll say this too, before 8 o'clock, it is muggy out here. It feels like 80 degrees to me. And the wind really isn't blowing very much at all. It's probably under 5 knots. So that is also probably a concern for the racers. It is forecast to go up with that thunderstorm passing through. The wind should be from the south at 10 knots or so. That would be the racers' expectations. The race did proceed on schedule, though a deluge of rain materialized whilst the many classes of racers were cycled out of the starting gate. The sailboats were divided into classes based upon their sailboat capabilities, and a general handicap system is applied to their performance so that the race winners are determined by adjusted times as opposed to the first boat that crosses the finish line. This is what allows for such a large and diverse participation rate in a race like this. Prior to the race start, Montrose Harbor is an excellent place to stroll in order to see the racers preparing for the challenge and journey ahead. An hour before the first class of sailboats hear the starting gun, the parade of boats starts around the end of Navy Pier. All sailboats participating must take a lap by the end of Navy Pier, with their race number clearly displayed, so race officials can officially check that sailboat in as participating in this year's race. This gives non-sailors or non-participants an opportunity to see the diverse set of sailboats and crews participating close up, and gives the crews a short opportunity to wave farewell to supporting friends and family, and in some cases, provide some cheeky interactions with the crowd. After viewing most of the parade of boats and dodging the worst of the rain, I made my way north to the Wilson turn marker to catch the racers working along the shoreline so they could go out to the open waters of Lake Michigan. The wind was light to moderate, coming from the south at about 5 to 10 knots, which was spinnaker conditions. These sails are the light, billowy, and colorful sails that are hoisted to catch the wind from behind and push the sailboats forward. For the first 8 hours, the race fleet had to deal with variable to light winds with the threat of severe weather and thunderstorms in the cooler air. But the wind did shift in the night to come from the north to northeast and increased to as much as 15 knots to give most race sailors a chilly, dark, and wet first night. The conditions did not allow the field to really break out, and most race entries remained tightly packed. This was in stark contrast to last year's first night, where multiple sailboats were caught in a fast-moving storm, resulting in 3 dismastings and 1 man overboard, in which that sailor was recovered. During the day on Sunday, the wind along the Chicago coastline was sporty at about 10 to 15 knots, yet the racers north on the Michigan side of the lake were experiencing lighter winds coming from the direction they wanted to go. And that required the boats to tack back and forth in either easterly or westerly directions. Sailboats cannot sail directly into the wind, so the wind direction has been causing the racers to cover many more miles than would be the case under different conditions. Top boats in their classes maintain very close proximity so that sailboats are poised to finish within minutes of each other. This is the nature of sailboat races. Small pieces of luck and skill accumulate over time and combine to determine the fortunes of the contestants involved. As it's now Monday afternoon, you can see here how the larger and faster sailboats have finished. Just by these divisions, you can see that these classes of boats are already at Mackinac Island, whilst these smaller vessels and less speedy sailboats are a little further behind. Most have gone through the Manitou Passage and are working their way through Gray's Reef and ultimately under the Mackinac Bridge, but there are many more miles to go for most of the contestants. So the results are in. I want to offer my congratulations to Skipper Michael Lynch of Cuddy's Ark, Pearson 36, which took the honors in the cruising division. For the Mackinac Trophy, congratulations to Skippers Jerry and Greg Miorecki, who skippered an Erickson 35 Mark II for the high honors. And finally, the Mackinac Cup, congratulations to Skipper Robert Hughes of Heartbreak and Transpac 52. On a personal note, I think next year I would like to have the opportunity to join a race boat for the Chicago Race to Mackinac Island. So, if there are any Chicago captains who would be willing to take on a former Marine with over 15 years sailing experience and a YouTuber, please leave a comment or look for my profile photo on the Chicago Sailors Facebook group. There is a different Sailor Eric on that group with a K, I'm with a C. I really appreciate the support provided by my subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. This is Sailor Eric. Thanks for watching.